Ever catch yourself thinking about how businesses make those huge purchases? You know, the ones way beyond just picking up something at the store.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Well, today we're diving deep into how companies navigate that whole world.
Okay.
Our guide is an article from Procure for Marketing called The Business Buying Process.
Interesting.
And it's pretty fascinating stuff.
It is.
For example, we're going to uncover what actually kicks off the whole process.
Okay.
Like even how just a simple broken coffee machine can get things going.
Yeah. It's true. Even something like that.
But it's not only those internal little hiccups that get things moving.
Right.
Businesses are always looking out for new stuff, good and bad.
Uh-huh.
And that might then make them consider a big purchase.
Absolutely.
Imagine you're at a conference, right, for your industry.
Yep.
And you suddenly realize your competitor has some incredible new tech.
Oh, yeah.
Something you have to stay competitive.
For sure. Makes total sense.
It's like all of a sudden realizing your phone's just not cutting it anymore. Uh-huh. Yep. Everyone else has one with features you didn't even know existed.
Exactly.
So once a business realizes it needs something, how do they figure out exactly what to buy?
Well, that's where they really lay the groundwork. They go from, we need something, to this is exactly what we need.
Okay.
It's kind of like, say, you're doing a kitchen reno.
Uh-huh.
You wouldn't just buy any appliances, right?
No.
You'd first figure out exactly what you need, what fits the space,
Right.
and of course, your budget.
Makes sense. The article had this great example about a cafe that needs new coffee machines.
Yeah. Perfect example.
So they know they need more machines.
Yep.
To keep up with all the customers, but that's just the very beginning.
Right, it is.
They got to figure out, well, how many machines to handle those busy times?
Yeah.
What features are essential?
Right, like how much coffee can they make at once?
Exactly.
And how fast can they do it?
Right.
And of course, they have to stick to their budget.
So it's not just, we need more coffee machines.
Yeah.
It's not, no.
It's, we need 3 high-capacity automatic machines, built-in grinders, all for under $10,000.
Exactly.
Wow.
That level of detail up front is super important.
Okay.
Otherwise, they could end up with 5 basic machines when they really needed 2 industrial ones.
Right.
And that kind of mistake,
Yeah.
that costs you time A&D money.
It's like buying all these ingredients for a recipe and then realizing, oh, I need a special oven to bake this.
Totally, yeah.
Okay, so we've got a clear need. The specs are all set.
Yep.
What happens next?
The hunt is on. They have to find suppliers who can actually deliver.
Right.
And there's a few ways they go about that.
Okay.
Imagine a massive shopping mall, but it's all for your industry.
Whoa.
That's basically what a trade show is.
Oh, wow.
You can meet suppliers face-to-face, see demos, network with people in the industry.
I bet that's valuable, but also probably overwhelming for some businesses.
Oh, it can be, yeah.
Yeah.
So if you want something more focused...
There's supplier catalogs, which can be really detailed, surprisingly, or these online platforms that connect businesses with potential suppliers.
So many options.
And of course, there's always good old word-of-mouth referrals from people you trust.
Right, like when we need a good mechanic.
Exactly.
You ask around for someone reliable, someone who knows their stuff.
Uh-huh.
But just finding potential suppliers, that's just the start, isn't it?
You're right. There's a key next step before they make any decisions.
Okay.
That's where they really start digging deep.
Okay.
Businesses need to check those potential suppliers out really carefully.
Gotcha.
Make sure they're picking the right partner.
So it's not just about the cheapest option.
It's not, no.
Yeah.
It's about finding a supplier you can actually trust, someone you can depend on.
Makes sense.
And that brings us to the next stage, getting those proposals.
So things are getting a bit more official now.
Right.
The article mentioned this is especially important for those really big purchases.
It is. When you're talking about a major investment, businesses want to make sure they're making informed choices.
Right.
So they'll ask for detailed proposals, bids, from several suppliers,
Okay.
outlining their needs, asking about pricing, timelines, all the important stuff.
So basically, here's what we need, show us what you can do and how much it'll cost.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like that construction company example from the article.
Oh, right. The one that needed cement for their big project.
Yeah, they wouldn't just pick up the phone and be like, send us some cement.
No, of course not.
They got to get specific. How much cement exactly? When do they need it? Maybe even what type if it's a special project.
Right.
It's about ironing out all those details up front.
To avoid any nasty surprises later on.
Exactly.
Okay, so those requests go out, the bids start coming in.
Yep.
What then?
Then comes the fun part, evaluating everything.
Haha. Sounds fun.
Businesses get to put on their detective hats and really dig into each proposal.
Ooh, interesting.
Trust me, it goes way beyond just looking at the final price.
So what else are they looking at?
Well, for starters, cost effectiveness.
Yeah.
It's not just about the initial price tag, it's about understanding the total cost of ownership.
Okay.
So that might include things like how much will it cost to maintain?
All right.
How long will it last?
Makes sense.
Are there potential upgrades down the line?
So you're thinking long term.
You have to, yeah.
Yeah.
Consider all the potential costs down the road.
Like comparing a cheap car that needs constant repairs to a pricier one that's super reliable.
Exactly. And then there's the supplier's reputation. That's huge.
Oh, right.
It's kind of like checking online reviews,
Yeah.
but on a much bigger scale.
Okay.
They might research the supplier's track record, look for case studies, even call up current clients for feedback.
So a thorough background check for a potential business partner.
You got it.
What else?
They look at quality assurances too,
Uh-huh.
things like warranties and guarantees.
Right.
It gives them peace of mind, knowing the supplier stands behind their product or service.
Makes sense, minimizing risk.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've covered recognizing the need, figuring out what's needed, then carefully vetting potential suppliers.
Yep.
What's the next step in this whole journey?
Now it's decision time. They have to pick a supplier.
Okay.
But as we've seen, it's not just about picking the lowest bid.
Right, there's so much more to it.
There is, yeah.
It's almost like choosing a doctor or even a babysitter. You're not just looking for the cheapest option. You want someone you trust and feel good about.
You're right, you do.
So reliability and that potential for a good long-term relationship are key.
Absolutely. They're looking for partners, companies that understand their needs and want them to succeed.
Right, I see that.
And that brings us to finalizing the deal.
Okay, so this is where all the little details get sorted out.
Exactly. They confirm the exact quantity, nail down delivery dates, agree on payment.
So things like, when are we getting this and how are we paying for it?
Exactly, those details might seem boring, but they're super important to make sure everything runs smoothly.
Right, so no logistical nightmares later on.
Exactly.
Like that construction project. If the cement doesn't show up on time,
Oh, yeah,
the whole project gets delayed, and that costs them a lot of money.
for sure.
So that wraps up the first part of our deep dive into the world of how businesses make buying decisions.
It does, yeah.
We've uncovered the first steps in this whole process, from recognizing they need something to choosing the right supplier.
Right.
But there's still a lot more to uncover.
Oh, definitely.
Stay tuned, because in the next part, we'll go even deeper into what influences these complicated choices.
We will, yeah.
We'll look at how businesses figure out risk, handle different buying situations, and even how they use technology to make smarter decisions.
Uh-huh.
Sounds like we're just getting started.
We are.
We're back, diving deeper into how businesses make those big buying decisions. We've already uncovered a lot about how companies approach this whole process.
Mm-hmm.
But what really goes on behind the scenes?
Right.
What kind of things really sway a business when they're making these choices?
Well, one big factor is the type of buying situation.
Okay.
Businesses don't approach every purchase the same way.
Makes sense.
Sometimes it's a simple rebuy,
Okay.
like just restocking on printer paper.
Oh, right. Routine stuff.
They already know what they need.
Yeah.
They probably have a preferred supplier.
Mm-hmm.
The whole process is pretty straightforward,
Easy peasy.
but things can get a little trickier with a modified rebuy.
Okay, modified rebuy. What's that?
Imagine, like our cafe owner.
Yeah.
They need a slightly different type of coffee machine this time.
Okay.
Maybe one that brews faster to handle that morning rush.
Makes sense.
They're already familiar with the supplier, they know the process, but they need to tweak things a bit.
So you're not starting from scratch, but you're not just hitting reorder either.
Exactly. And then you have the new task purchases.
A task.
This is when the business is buying something completely new.
Oh, wow. So a big deal.
Could be a major investment,
Right.
like a whole new software system or a big piece of equipment.
So lots of research needed there, I imagine.
Oh, tons. And lots of evaluating different options.
Probably lots of people involved, too.
Oh, yeah, you usually have input from all sorts of people within the company.
Yeah, like IT, finance,
Uh,
maybe even the CEO wants to say.
Absolutely. The bigger the purchase, the more people tend to get involved.
Right, makes sense.
Hmm.
And it's not just what's going on inside the company that matters, right?
It's not. No.
What about things like the economy?
Oh, absolutely. External factors like that play a huge role.
I can see that.
If the economy's booming, businesses might be more willing to take risks.
Yeah, make bigger investments.
Exactly. But if things are a bit shaky, they'll probably be more cautious,
Right, gotta watch the bottom line.
for sure. And then you've got industry trends. and how competitive things are.
So let's keep up with the Joneses.
You do, yeah. Businesses need to stay ahead of the curve if they want to succeed.
So it's like a constant chess match,
Kinda, yeah. You're always watching what your competitors are doing.
trying to predict their next move.
Exactly. And speaking of strategy, what about risk?
Oh, right. Risk assessment.
Businesses don't just jump into these big purchases without thinking about the downsides.
So what kind of risks are we talking about here?
Well, there's the risk of buying something that just doesn't work out.
Like it doesn't meet their needs or something?
Exactly. Or it doesn't perform how they expected.
Right.
Or it becomes outdated super quickly.
And then you're stuck with a lemon.
And they also need to think about the supplier. What if they go out of business?
Oh, wow.
Or what if they can't deliver what they promised?
Yeah, that's a good point.
Some companies even consider the ethical implications of their choices.
Okay, so a lot to think about.
It is?
It's like choosing a contractor for a big home renovation, right?
Yeah.
You don't want someone who will disappear halfway through.
Right.
Or use shoddy materials.
You got to do your research.
Exactly. You want to make sure they're reliable, they have a good reputation, and that their values align with yours.
Absolutely. Businesses have a lot riding on these decisions.
Makes sense. So how do they keep track of all this information and make sure they're making smart choices?
Well, many businesses have a set process for making purchases.
Okay.
It's called a procurement process.
Procurement process. Got it.
It usually involves a series of steps and approvals
Okay.
to make sure everything is transparent and accountable
Uh-huh.
and that they're following all the rules and regulations.
So probably lots of paperwork.
There can be, yeah. But luckily, technology is making things a lot easier these days.
Oh, well, that's good.
Lots of companies now use these online platforms
Okay.
for managing their entire purchasing process.
That makes sense.
It's called e-procurement.
E-procurement.
They can streamline everything, from finding suppliers to tracking orders and payments.
Wow, so much easier than shuffling paper around.
It is, yeah. Some platforms even use AI.
AI.
Yeah, artificial intelligence,
Wow.
to analyze data and make recommendations based on the company's needs.
So it's like having a virtual purchasing department.
It is, yeah.
Hmm.
Potentially much more efficient and cost-effective.
That's incredible. Sounds like the future of purchasing.
It really does. And speaking of the future, let's talk about data.
Okay, data.
Businesses are using data analytics more and more to inform their purchasing choices.
Makes sense.
They might analyze their past purchases to predict future demand,
Oh, interesting.
or track how their suppliers are performing to see where they can improve.
So it's like having a crystal ball.
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah.
It helps them make smarter, more strategic decisions.
Okay.
By using data, businesses can get valuable insights into how they buy things.
Okay.
They can optimize their spending
Right.
and reduce their risk.
Really smart. So we've talked about different types of buying situations,
Right.
the things outside the company that affect their decisions,
Right.
and even the role of technology and data.
Yeah.
What else should we know about how this whole process works?
It's important to remember that business buying isn't just about checking boxes and following procedures.
Okay.
There's a human element too.
Oh, right. The relationships?
Exactly. Think
Yeah.
about the relationships between businesses and their suppliers.
Yeah, they have to work together.
They do. And a lot of times those relationships are built on trust,
Okay.
mutual respect.
And understanding each other's needs.
Exactly.
In any good relationship.
It is, yeah.
You need good communication, got to be reliable, and you got to work together towards the same goals.
Absolutely. Building strong relationships with suppliers is key.
I can see how that would lead to better communication,
It does.
smoother transactions,
Then
maybe
for-
even getting preferential treatment sometimes.
It can, yeah. Sometimes that long-standing relationship with a trusted supplier is just as valuable as a lower price.
So it's not always about chasing the cheapest deal.
It's not, no. Businesses often prioritize things like reliability, quality, and shared values when they're making decisions.
Okay.
They might be willing to pay a little more for a supplier they know they can count on.
Especially if it means avoiding problems down the line.
Exactly. You mentioned supplier failure earlier.
Oh, right.
If a business has a strong relationship with a reliable supplier, they're less likely to run into those kinds of issues.
So it's about having a safety net.
It is, yeah. Those relationships can give them stability and security in a world that's always changing.
That's so important these days.
It is. And it can also open doors for collaboration and innovation.
So it becomes more than just buying and selling.
It does, yeah.
It's about working together to come up with solutions and create value.
That's a great way to put it. And that brings us to supplier relationship management.
Supplier relationship management.
Yeah, or SRM for short.
SRM, what's that all about?
It's a strategic way to manage a company's interactions with its suppliers. It's about building and nurturing those relationships,
Uh-huh.
making sure communication is clear,
Right.
and working together to achieve shared goals.
So it's like a structured approach to those relationships we were just talking about.
Exactly. By using effective SRM strategies, businesses can strengthen their supply chains,
Okay.
reduce risks,
Uh-huh.
and even gain a competitive advantage.
So it's not just about individual transactions.
It's not, no.
It's about the whole relationship.
Exactly. And that brings us to another important point, total cost of ownership.
Total cost of ownership, we touched on that before?
You did, yeah. But it's worth revisiting.
Okay, remind me what it means again?
It means considering all the costs associated with a purchase.
Right, not just the sticker price.
Exactly. So that might include things like shipping costs,
Right.
installation fees,
Mm-hmm.
maintenance expenses,
Right.
even the cost of training employees to use the new product or service.
So you're looking at the big picture.
You are, yeah.
Yeah,
The long-term costs and benefits.
makes sense.
And this is where those strong supplier relationships can really pay off.
How so?
Well, a trusted supplier might be willing to negotiate on price,
Okay.
offer extended warranties,
Nice.
or even provide ongoing support and training.
So they're really invested in your success.
Exactly. It's not just about making a quick sale.
Makes a huge difference.
It does.
Yeah.
And that brings us to another important consideration, ethics.
Ethics in business buying, you mentioned that before.
I did, yeah. It's a big deal these days.
Okay.
Businesses are being held accountable for their ethical practices more and more.
Makes sense.
And that includes their purchasing decisions.
So they need to choose suppliers who are doing the right thing.
Exactly. Whether that's environmental sustainability, fair labor practices,
Mm-hmm.
or responsible sourcing of materials.
So it's about doing business with companies that share their values.
It is, yeah. And this is becoming more and more important for businesses of all sizes.
Because customers care about these things.
They do. Consumers are more aware than ever of the ethical implications of what they buy.
Makes sense.
And they're more likely to support businesses that are making ethical choices.
So it's not just the right thing to do.
Not.
It's also good for business.
Exactly. And this goes back to what we were talking about before, building strong relationships with suppliers.
Right.
When you have that trust, you can have open and honest conversations about ethical practices.
Okay.
You can ask questions, share your concerns, and work together to make sure your values are aligned.
This has been a really eye-opening conversation. We've covered so much ground.
We have, yeah.
Different buying situations, the things outside the company that affect their decisions, the importance of relationships, and now ethics, too.
Uh-huh.
I'm really starting to see how complex and fascinating this whole world is.
It is, yeah.
It's been great exploring all this with you.
It has. As we head into the final part of our deep dive, I want to leave you with a question. How can you apply these insights from the business world to your own personal decisions?
Ooh, that's a good one.
Whether you're choosing a vacation, planning for retirement, or even just deciding which new restaurant to try.
It's amazing how looking at something like business buying, which seems so complicated, can teach us so much about making any kind of decision.
It is, yeah.
We're back for the final part of our deep dive into those big buying decisions businesses make. We've covered how they approach the process, the factors they weigh, even how tech is changing things.
Yeah.
But now I'm curious about the bigger picture, how these decisions ripple outwards and what we can all learn from them.
It is pretty fascinating. Every purchase a business makes has consequences, both inside the company and out in the world.
Internally, I can see how a good purchase could really boost things.
Oh, yeah.
Like maybe productivity goes up, employees are happier, and ultimately the company makes more money.
Absolutely. A smart purchase can be a real game changer. But a bad decision? Well, that can mean wasted resources. Projects get delayed, even hurt the company's reputation.
Oh, ouch.
Imagine investing in some software that turns out to be a dud.
Yeah.
It's a real mess to try and fix that.
Right. And it's not just about what happens inside the company either, is it?
No, it's not.
These choices affect their suppliers, their customers, even the economy as a whole.
It's all connected.
Yeah.
Imagine a business decides to get their materials locally.
Yep.
That decision supports jobs right there in the community.
Makes sense.
Helps the local economy too.
Right.
Or think about a company that partners with suppliers who are really focused on ethical practices and sustainability.
Yeah.
That sends a strong message to their customers.
Like they're a company that cares.
Exactly. And it can even influence other businesses in the industry to do the same.
Wow. It's like a chain reaction. Every decision can have all these ripple effects. So how can understanding all this help us make better decisions in our own lives?
Well, that's the cool thing about these concepts. They can apply to pretty much anything.
Even if we're not running some big company.
Exactly.
Hmm.
For one thing, it encourages us to be more thoughtful about our choices,
Okay.
like how businesses take time to analyze what they need before buying anything.
Right.
We can do the same thing, really figure out our own needs and wants.
So before I buy something, ask myself,
Yeah,
do I really need this? Or am I just getting sucked in by advertising or what everyone else is doing?
exactly. And just like businesses do their research on suppliers and compare different offers, we can do our homework too,
Makes sense.
especially for big purchases.
Yeah,
Whether it's picking a contractor for a home reno, finding a financial advisor,
right.
it pays to gather info, read reviews, maybe even ask for recommendations.
Be an informed consumer.
Exactly. And businesses have to think about the long-term effects of their choices.
Right.
We can do that too.
So it's not just about what I want right now.
It's not.
It's about how my choices will affect me down the road.
Exactly. Instead of just thinking about the price tag or what I'll get out of it right away,
Uh-huh.
ask yourself, will I still be happy with this decision in a year, 5 years?
It's like that dilemma with clothes, right?
Yeah,
Do I buy the trendy thing that'll probably fall apart after a few washes, or spend a bit more on something well-made that'll last for years?
exactly. Sometimes spending a bit more upfront can save you money and headaches later on.
Very true. And you mentioned relationships earlier.
Right.
Building strong relationships, that's just as important in our personal lives as it is in business.
It really is.
Whether it's a financial advisor, a doctor, a good mechanic,
Wow.
having those people you can trust makes a huge difference.
It's like having a team of experts on your side. People you can rely on for advice and support when you need to make a big decision.
That's a great way to put it. And like, businesses are using technology to make things easier.
Yeah,
We can too.
absolutely.
There are so many tools and resources out there to help us make smarter choices.
There are
Comparison websites, reviews, online communities.
tons of stuff. It's amazing.
It's like having a personal research assistant right there in my pocket.
It is. It's all about being proactive and taking advantage of what's out there to make the best choices for ourselves and our families.
Couldn't agree more. So as we wrap up this deep dive, I think it's time for that thought-provoking question you mentioned earlier.
Okay, here it is. How can you use what we've talked about, these insights from the business world, in your own life?
Interesting.
Whether you're planning a vacation, figuring out retirement, or even just deciding on a new restaurant to try.
That's a great challenge. It's amazing how exploring something as complex as how businesses make decisions can teach us so much about making any kind of decision.
It is, yeah.
Thanks for joining us on the deep dive. We'll be back soon with another fascinating exploration of the world around us.